you're keeping us up to date, Ryan, as you know, you've had to watch two things at once here and take notes.
I'll do a cosplay of Europe VCT so far. Hold on.
Okay. Gentlemen, let's move on, because I mean, this next topic is a banger. You ever seen someone try and talk about something they have no idea about? I mean, if you've listened to me, you're probably familiar with it. Let's talk about VCT EU so far. All right, you ready for this? So here's what we have to go on. We're gonna it's gonna be Colonel Mustard with the candlestick in the kitchen. We're gonna Cluedo this shit. We're gonna put it together from just this fucking picture. Ryan, run us through what we know about VCT EU so far.
Yeah, so because this is the first part of challenges going into stage 2, everybody starts afresh. Nobody gets a bit of a head start. So everybody has to work through the qualifiers. This is the first portion of it, with both Team Vitality and Ascend qualifying. And Team Vitality, as you'll notice, beating G2 Esports. As we mentioned, with no streams, we have no real context on what has been going wrong for G2. So Price knows what the problem is there. The only game we got to see was Ascend versus Giants, which was nice of Pipson to stream from his perspective. Shouldn't have to do that, but we've spoken about that already. These sort of games that we've seen from FPX and Ninjas in Pajamas are seeding, but these are the top 8 teams, and 2 of them have managed to make their way up as this podcast has been going on. First of all, to sort of go over the Ninjas in Pajamas versus Ascend game, he actually won it. But yeah, the FPX Ninjas in Pajamas game was the 17-19 scoreline on Haven that I know Dream was losing his mind at, because we never got to see Sandgren bowl. Because for those that don't know, there's 2 brothers. There's Emil, who's the coach for Ninjas in Pajamas, and Doombros Eric, who is the analyst for FPX. So when these 2 face off, you have literal twin brothers playing up against each other. We've not seen that so far, and we are continuing to not see it because that game wasn't streamed. That was just for seeding. Ninjas in Pajamas beat Alliance a couple of hours ago, and Guild beat Alliance 2-0. Sorry, Ninjas in Pajamas beat Ascend.
Yeah.
So the winners of Masters 1 are out and have to play again for stage 2, much like Sentinels and FaZe for NA. Yeah,
it's happening again after Tanzik sort of tweeted like, 7 out of 8 Masters teams got through so far. Haha, it shows it's not a fluke. LBJ's in the chat telling us to fucking keep up. Excuse me. So we've been doing a podcast while these fucking games have been going on. What do you want me to do? I can refresh the spike.gg as well, bro, okay? That doesn't make me a fucking expert on the subject matter.
I'll send you a PDF of the notes that I was writing whilst we went into this podcast. I did have it on the other monitor as well.
The things that we have to do to fucking keep up with this scene. Hey, can we bring up the bracket again? Just that, I think it was Liquipedia bracket. Let's bring it up. I want to do something. All right, Van Silly, great to have you here as we cover now the VCT EU qualifiers. Fun plus Phoenix up against Team Sampi earlier on, but keep an eye on the other side of the bracket, Van City, because Volvo Peak are looking dangerous. Teams are losing. I mean, Volvo Peak lost to Fun plus Phoenix. Look, they made it through that next round, but on the other side, Ninjas in Pajamas take down London United. They have a fated encounter with Wave Esports again in that next match, but I can't believe it, Vans. NIP 2-0 over Wave Esports. This is ridiculous.
That's amazing. I just have to figure out what's going to be happening towards the conversation for Wave Esports at that point. But even if we don't have the scoreline of these 2 matches, we could still say that Ninjas in Pajamas comfortably made it into the playoffs.
That's a great point, Vance. I'm really glad that you pointed out how they moved through. They go up against Fun plus Phoenix. It is close, but they don't quite win the series. It's 2-1. Would have been an incredible game to see. Fun plus Phoenix come outside with the higher seed, but NIP still get to qualify and go forward. Elsewhere, though, it's all happening. Alliance go up against Taron Mill, comfortably get rid of them, and they have a match up against Fnatic.
Oh, I can't follow up on that.
Fuck and me, you've now done more Europe casting than I have. Just off that
there you go. I have now done more VCT EU casting than Riot Central. Unfucking lucky. So we got that beer roll from Vodafone Giants. You're keeping us up to date, Ryan, as you know, you've had to watch 2 things at once here and take notes.
I'll do a cosplay of Europe VCT so far. Hold on.
Okay.
Oh no. Oh no.
Oh.
G2 have gone. What is this? What has happened?
Liquid's gone.
Oh, Oh, bless him. I'm never getting high now. I'm out for the year.
Oh, okay. So yeah, obviously, we had NIP versus a set. NIP winning that game is quite crazy. Actually, we'll get to go back and watch it. So that'll be great because there actually is something that exists there. Here's something I wanted to talk about really quickly. We partnered up with the Spike.gg here in a segment where I just want to spend some time talking about G2, or at least what we know about G2, right? Because this is a graphic that they've produced for us here, which shows its Ignition series, right? Going all the way back, it was like Level Clash 2, so ages ago, and VCT EU Stage 2. This is how their stats differed, or didn't rather differ, in between those two events. And yet G2 are falling out against Vitality and not qualifying.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's happened in between, but it does show that when it comes to individual performances, at least, the problem isn't really to do with anybody on G2. I think the common misconception is when David P was on the roster, G2 would get good. When Zig came in, G2 were bad. When Neil came in as a coach, G2 were bad. And I don't think this is really fair when you have some of the caliber of players that they have on the team. I know that Ardis' stats are on here, and he was considered one of the best players in the world. Obviously, it's very hard to gauge that when the world doesn't get to play each other, but he was one of the standout players in Europe that was pretty unknown from his Fish 1-2-3 days. Sure. And with his ADR, his KPI, it's pretty consistent. It's obviously a little bit lower, but I think there are a few reasons, to say the least. The first of which is when you're on top, you don't really need to, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, basically. When it stopped working, I think that the past few months of 2020 really caught up to G2. And I think it's pretty evident with what's been going wrong. Like Mixwell has even been performing better than he did in the Ignition series of Level Clash, which was the last Ignition event before the Blast Invitational, I think it was. Yeah. So, 6 months ago, and Mixwell has become a much better player, honestly. He's played a lot more Raze recently as well. He's not just a typical Jet Opper, in a time where Jet and the Op has also been nerfed since. I think the problem with G2 mostly is the fact that this is a team that hasn't really been punished for a lot of the fundamental errors that they made. I know that it was an ongoing joke with the last host Moses that Europe was just G2, really, and no other team really compared to them in regards to their firepower. It wasn't really true. FPX did, continue to crap the bed, to be honest, let's be fair. But I think that as we saw Heretics come into the fold and all of the other teams improve beyond, G2 now need to go, all right, we're losing now. What do we need to focus on? And then the answer, everything, comes up. And they don't really know where to put their resources. They've got a new coach in that wants to sort of play a more fundamental level. But when things are going wrong, especially in scrims, you see, and I think this is the problem with TSM as well on a similar note, you see teams change up pretty much every week. And I think that's what we saw with G2 a lot in the first stage. We saw them pull out Sky. And typically when you see these kind of random compositions come up that you've never seen them play before, it typically means, and this is from speaking to coaches, it typically means that scrims maybe aren't going well, that they're kind of throwing shit at the wall to see what sticks, right? And I think that's what G2 have been trying to do. Find their identity, find out how they can realistically use these players to the best of their abilities. Because when things were going well, it was very easy to work with that team. Everybody was probably having a great time in comms and really just playing the game that they want to play. Now that they've been found out, they need to work out what's best for them. And that is going to take a lot longer now because of the amount of time that they went unpunished in 2020. I think some other teams kind of go, all right, we lost. We need to change up stuff. We need to focus on fundamentals, like NiP losing to Ascend. They came back a much stronger team and managed to beat Ascend in a best of 3 today. G2, they have months and months of work to go across, and it's G2, so expectations are always going to be pretty high. That's the YouTube video if I was to do one on what's going wrong with G2.
Yeah, don't ruin your content, you know what I mean? Because you sure as hell know Ryan ain't paying you anytime soon. Let's again, I think like it was brought up in chat, and I think it makes sense because one thing that struck me about the Spike.gg's comparison is that overall the stats really didn't get worse. You know what I mean? They really didn't look much worse at all. Kills per round, deaths per round, stuff like a lot of this. You could argue that it's sort of superficial. You can see like in fact it actually got better, right? G2 are dying less. They're getting more kills per round on average. Like it's actually an improvement for them, and yet here we are. So that is a testament to the rest of the European scene rising up. And again, I think there's a lot of potential there. The ceiling is incredibly high for that scene, you know, we have some really quality teams there. You know, it's always a little bit, you know, disconcerting to see teams like, you know, Defuse sort of get dropped from their roster, and, you know, and sort of, you know, teams sort of, you know, dipping their toes in and out of the pool there. But the European scene has just got pretty unbounded potential, and now that we have a chance to, again, I'm looking forward to seeing these games. I've got to work though. I'm actually at work right now, so yeah, thanks LBJL. If I can catch up later, mate, cheeky bastard.